And why do we even need a stronger mind? Why not just eliminate stress?
I'm your host, Ateem, and this is the Integrated Man Podcast.
Gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of the Integrated Man Podcast. So happy to have you here. And in today's topic, I'm going to be covering something that you guys actually requested. So I do take feedback seriously. And this topic is still somewhat taboo. It's something that is kept under the surface, something we never learn about in schools, from our parents. We don't even talk about it with our peers. And that topic is men's mental health. You see, as men, there's this expectation that you need to be stoic and emotionless all the time. But let's be real, life can be fucking hard at times. Absolutely brutal. And the sad part is, some of us never get over these experiences. From childhood trauma to parental expectations to simply the realities of adulthood. Some of us never really learn to endure, overcome, and learn from what we go through. And we go to the opposite side of the spectrum, which is evading. And that is where you don't want to be, because reality is reality. You actually have to face these things, go through them, and actually learn from them. Or else it's just going to be there, lingering, actually draining you of energy for the rest of your life. Like everyone else, I've faced a lot of adversity in life, some more than others, but others more than me as well. And that is just a reality. We can't compare our suffering to anyone else's. It all comes down to an individual journey. Of course, we can seek support from others, but ultimately, what goes on in our mind, it's our own thing to handle. One of the first things anyone would recommend is going to see a therapist. However, to me, and from what I've seen from those around, going to a therapist is something that is just ongoing and it takes a lot of time. And over the years, with progress, with science, with technology, there's been a lot of changes in how we approach mental health. From things like psychedelics to hypnosis, all of these tools are there to actually help us deal with our traumas, with our depression, with whatever we may be facing inside our minds. For me personally, two things I have used. And I won't recommend this 100% because one of it is still in the gray area. There's a lot of research going on with psychedelics. So I'll just start with that one. The first one is psilocybin, which is a compound usually found in something called magic mushrooms. Some of you may know about it, some of you may not know about it. And it's something that is still somewhat in the gray area, meaning there's still laws and regulations prohibiting its use, calling it a drug. But all it is a mushroom coming out of shit, literally. It's usually found in like elephant dung or cow dung. And the thing about this is that it really opens up neural pathways and takes away the everyday thinking that we have, depending on how much you take. Now, I would recommend that you do a lot of research before you even consider doing something like this to overcome trauma or go through whatever you're facing. If you're in a bad state of mind, what it does, it will amplify that state. So you need to be very careful because you can actually peer into the depths of your mind, into your subconscious, your non-conscious, and bring things up from there, from your deep past, your childhood, your traumas. All this stuff can come up. That is potentially what can happen. I'm not promising, I'm not saying it can happen, I'm not recommending either. You need to have a strong mind to actually do something like this. Now, there's a lot of medical research, a lot of studies coming up. You just need to search for it yourself and know if it's something that you're willing to try. And you can do it with a trained professional. There's a lot of startups now that would guide you on a journey, on a psilocybin journey, to actually peer into the depths of your mind. And you need to do it with intention. And that is how I did it. I did it with an intention to go into my past, to look at trauma, to look at abandonment, whatever I faced, and actually just overcome that. And to me, it happened in a snap, but I can't say this would happen for you like that. And that takes me to the second thing that I tried, and that is something called RTT, or Rapid Transformational Hypnotherapy. Now, this is not like the traditional therapy that you would do with a therapist, where you just go to a session every week and it's just ongoing, you explaining your problems and stuff, which is completely fine. If you need that, you need someone to talk to, someone neutral who won't judge you, then that is completely fine. But if you just want to overcome something, then I can recommend something like RTT. And you can search for these. These are all around the world. You just need to Google RTT therapists in your area. And what they do is use a really unique approach where you're in a state of somewhat hypnosis And of course, it's someone that you can trust because they're a certified professional and you need to actually confirm that. Now, what they do is they put you into a state of hypnosis, let you revisit whatever you've been through, and you actually face these things head on until you can get over it. It doesn't happen in an instant, but it would happen much faster than seeing a traditional therapist. Now, both of these things are outside to you. And the truth is, most of us, we go our entire lives without working at any of these things. We just let it sit in our minds, occupy space, energy, and just keep us below our actual capabilities because these things will always hold you back in life. Now, I want to share with you 5 practices that you can actually implement that is taking the ownership on yourself because, again, seeing a therapist or using a substance is outside to you. But what I want to share with you are things that you can actually do for yourself, by yourself. One important note though, and that is at the other end of the spectrum of really difficult and challenging events of life is somewhere that is equally destructive, and that is the comfort zone. Now, as a man, you don't want to be in the comfort zone. When you're in the comfort zone, nothing happens there. Growth doesn't take place, challenges doesn't take place, your character isn't built there. So you need to be really aware of being in the comfort zone. So you need to be really aware and ensure that you don't get there. This is where complacency sets in and the natural drive just diminishes. If you're constantly having sex and good food and pleasure and just cheap entertainment, then your natural drive, your natural ambition is just going to fade away. So you need to cultivate that level of self-awareness, looking at when you're at this extreme compared to the other. What you need to develop is this level of self-awareness so that when you're not in extremely stressful situations, ensure that you're not in extremely comfort zone situations. You want to find that middle ground because you don't want to get complacent and at the same time you don't want to be too stressed out. So always aim for that middle ground. Don't aim for perfection where there's nothing challenging you in life because then you won't be growing or developing your character or actually getting better every day. And why do we even need a stronger mind? Why not just eliminate stress? As mentioned, you don't want to be in this end where you're in the extreme comfort zone. Nothing happens there. And the truth is, life is a stressful event, or else death is the alternative. Nothing happens in death. You don't want to be there, right? So being alive is simply overcoming challenges. If you can accept that, it makes it much easier. And as you develop a stronger mind, the challenges that you think may be difficult today, a year from now would be nothing. They would be little speed bumps in your life. The good experiences would be meaningless without the bad ones. They complement each other. So stress and good times, they complement each other. You need it in your life. So if you embrace that, it becomes much easier. Now I'm going to jump into those 5 practical tips that you can implement for developing that resilient mind. And the first one, which I'll keep bringing up time and time again, is moving your body. Getting into the habit of moving your body. You see, your body is a self-regulating system. And once the body is healthy, the mind is already at a certain level. Now when we face challenging situations in life and we're in this low state of mental activity, we tend to crouch up and be in one spot. We want to be indoors, lock ourselves in our room and not move a lot. But if you already have a habit of moving, you're already 50% there. Now having a trainer, having a group of friends that you train with, having a group that you join in, knowing that you're accountable to these people actually makes it much easier rather than you just having to depend on yourself to go to the gym or go to the park for a walk. When you know that this is happening at certain days in the week or it's part of your routine or your schedule and you have other people holding you accountable, it becomes much easier. Like I said, you want to make movement part of your routine. You need to make it into a habit or else it just becomes like a chore that you have to do, something on your to-do list. And that is something you don't want at all. You need to turn it into a habit. Once it becomes a habit, now your mind is already at a certain level of resilience, as I mentioned before. And this brings me to point number 2, which is to perform what I call a daily brain scan. Now, you can't physically see your brain. However, you can see your thoughts. And the way you do that is by writing. Daily writing. If you're going through a stressful period, having stuff come up from the past, one of the easiest way to actually lock down what is happening in your mind is to start writing, cultivating the habit of writing. Like everything else, It needs to become a habit. You need to do it daily, whether it's using the notes app on your phone or walking around with a notebook, it doesn't matter. But that is the only way you get to see what is actually happening there. You need to capture those thoughts, write it down, and then you can actually perform an analysis on yourself. So, the brain scan, as I mentioned, is how you actually have that self awareness. That's how you start developing a certain level of self awareness. And once you start doing that, it becomes much easier to identify what exactly is happening in your mind. Now, we have around 6,000 thoughts per day, and the reality is we cannot comb through all of them and know exactly what is happening. Now, the only way we can have a chance of actually capturing the really potent things that really occupy the time and space in our mind and actually consume our energy is by writing. And by writing, we can then see the patterns, we can see what keeps coming up, then we know what to address. It becomes actionable. As a man, you need to take charge. You cannot be in victim mentality. No one feels sorry for a grown man. That is reality. So when you actually are capable of identifying what is happening in there, then you know what you need to work on and you actually have to do something about it. If it's something that you need help, then it's completely fine to seek help. That is why you have people around you that you trust, that you can go to, and that would help you overcome what you're going through. But you already need to take action. No one is going to come save you or actually identify what is happening there for you. You need to actually take charge and do something about it. And this brings me to point number 3, which is to learn something new. And I'll tell you why. When you're facing these extremes of negativity, anxiousness, depression, whatever it may be, it occupies a lot of time in your life. However, if you're dedicating your time to learn something new, first of all, it occupies your time. 2, your energy. And 3, it actually occupies mental space. Now, we can only focus on so many things at one time, usually one thing. And if our time is not accounted for, we're going to be spending it in that low period. Sometimes things just need time to overcome. Now, that time doesn't need to be spent in that low period. If you're actually learning something new, it takes away your energy, your effort, your mental space, and dedicating it to something in that direction. So it's somewhat of a segue away from going down this path. And it's something that happens in parallel while you actually work on yourself, while you actually work on whatever you're facing right now. And learning something new can be a book, it can be a podcast, it can be YouTube videos, whatever. But what I would recommend that is even more potent is doing something physically with your hands. As men, we like to build naturally. And occupying our time with video games and YouTube and TikTok and all this bullshit is just going to take you further down that mental rabbit hole where you don't want to be. There's just zero return on investment in these avenues. Now, this brings me to point number 4, which is becoming aware of the dopamine trap. Things like shoes, clothes, cars, food, pleasure, sexuality, butt selfies on Instagram, OnlyFans, all these things are just traps, things that lure you in and actually distract you. And it may take away from whatever you're experiencing, but the fact is, you have to come back and face those things. So you need to really be careful of the dopamine traps. This is temporary and it doesn't actually fix your problems. It just helps you escape from your problems. Now, one thing I can recall is that I was chatting with a crackhead. Yeah, so where I'm from, there's a lot of crackheads. And I wanted to find out what exactly caused him to start doing crack all the time. Because this guy, he doesn't really have a job or anything. He just gets money and just does drugs. So it came up to one thing. All he was doing is escaping the realities of his life. Instead of doing something about it, getting a job, cleaning himself up, he would just go into this mode of escaping. And although this is an extreme situation, an extreme example, I'm just showing you the realities of these same little habits of going after that dopamine rush, of just seeking pleasure and escaping what it actually leads to in the long run. Not saying that this would happen to anyone, but I'm just highlighting a case here. What you really need to cultivate and work on and spend time on are the difficult things. Although it may be difficult, you need to work on it. And that is what manning up is about. It's about doing the difficult things, facing the harsh realities, working on things like your relationship, your career. All of these things pay back in the long run. It keeps you from getting into this state of chasing after dopamine, because when you have a good life set up, you don't have to go for these temporary little bursts of pleasure. And the final point I want to get to is to be selfish. Now, what does it mean to be selfish? Being selfish doesn't mean you need to be an asshole. It simply means that you prioritize yourself before anything else. Now, if you're going through shit, if you're in a bad state of mind, you can't be helping other people, you can't be committing, you can't be saying yes to everything. You need to learn to say no and put yourself first, put your schedule first, put your mental health first, your physical health first. And only then you'll be able to help other people and, see about whatever obligations you may have. Now, there are things that may come up that you need to attend to, which is necessary. But anything not related to that should be focused on your own growth development and getting over whatever you're facing. Now, those are 5 solid tips that you can implement in your life today. And I'll just summarize what those are, right? Number 1, it's to move your body. Get into a state of self-regulation. Move your body. Sweat, move, walk, go to the gym, whatever it is. You need to move your body. Number 2, perform a daily brain scan, which is journaling. The simple act of writing is the only way you can capture your thoughts and see what it is in the real world. So make sure to perform your daily brain scan and write down your thoughts. Number 3, learn something new. Make sure you're engaged in something. Something is occupying your time, something is challenging you, and takes your mind away from whatever you may be going through. Number 4, be aware of the dopamine trap. Be sure to catch yourself when you're just going for temporary pleasures. This won't help you in the long run. And number 5, be selfish. Learn to say no. Take care of yourself first before you try helping other people, committing to other things. And I'll just like to wrap up with one little thing that I personally use as well, which is whenever you're going through something, make sure you have a friend that you can talk to. Just someone you can tell anything, someone you trust completely, someone who you know would give good advice. And sometimes all we need is someone that would listen to us. We just need to be heard. And that is completely fine. So it's really helpful if you can have someone that you confide in. And even better if it's a couple of friends that you have that are really close. This would help you go through anything as long as you know you have someone on your side, someone to support you. It helps a lot. And ultimately, having a calm mind can be simplified if we cut out all the ambiguity that we have in our lives. It's like if you want to be fit, just make sure to sweat every day and eat healthy food and rest properly. If you want a good relationship, be someone who's fun to be around, a man of value. If you want to make money, solve a problem that people are willing to pay for. If you want to feel at peace, speak truth and don't harm others. If you want a fulfilling life, don't be passive and take ownership and get what you want. And it doesn't matter how old you are. With 1 year of dedication, your life can completely change around. It's just up to you to actually do the work. Because it's nice to listen to all of this, get all this advice. It's good to know, but you have to do. You actually have to implement. No one is going to solve your problems for you, so you actually have to go out there and take action on your own life. And again, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with a brother that you may know, and also you can sign up for the weekly newsletter. There I'll just expand a little bit on the episode and just give you a little background as well. Every week, it goes out every Monday, and you can get it at integratedman.academy.